Hi, everybody. Mike Lindskog with the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes here. It is mid-June. Technically, we would be in the midst of the All-Star break, and yet here we are with some confinement still in regards to quarantine during this COVID-19 era. We thought we'd spice it up for you a little bit since we're just desperately missing baseball here. And gosh, it's been almost 9 months since I've done anything like this, so we decided to go deep. Invite the 2019 skipper of your Rancho Cucamonga Quakes on board with us during a little Zoom phone call. Mark Kertenian, how are you, sir?
Hey, Mike. This is great. Hello, everybody.
Oh, my gosh. Are you missing baseball like I'm missing baseball? We've been without for so long. Good news, obviously, on the MLB front in that it looks as if the season here in 2020 will take place. And, of course, that's exciting news for Dodger fans. Looks like it's going to be about a 60-game season, but hopefully that'll all come to fruition within the next couple of weeks. And guys will be in Los Angeles training at Dodger Stadium. I'm excited to hear that news.
Yeah, it's great news. We'll definitely miss baseball. This news that we just got right before we got on. It's a long time coming, and I think that most of us will be ecstatic to see those games on TV and return to action, man. It's a great time.
You bet. These are obviously unprecedented times. How's quarantine treating you? I know that all of our lives have changed over the last several months. What's your favorite thing to do over quarantine?
Wow. There's the opportunity to rest your bones has been there, whether you like it or not. And, just running some errands each day, staying active within the Dodgers organization. The neat part is we've kept things going for our minor league players on a really neat level as an entire staff and department. So it's been pretty busy, but not like a typical season. Miss the heck out of you guys.
Yeah, boy, I hear that. Boy, the relationships that you make over the course of a baseball season, you just can't even begin to explain to folks outside the game. And those are the things we miss: the camaraderie, those walk-off home runs on the field, and the behind-the-scenes stuff. Those are things that I've unfortunately had to replace. But good news for me is I've gotten to spend some more time with my little guy. I know you spent some extra time with family. Those are things that can't happen during the course of a baseball season. So barbecues and family time that are in quarantine, at least those are taking the place of baseball right now.
Yeah, well said. But what I do also miss is getting on the bus and checking to make sure you're there, because you know how it is after games. Sometimes we get on there a little bit quicker than you're able to finish up your
I don't know what you're talking
pieces.
Nope, that never happened. Not one time.
Well, it's a good thing. You're a passionate employee, passionate baseball man.
Yeah, well, I don't know about if I enjoy riding that bus quite as much as you, but we'll leave it at that and move on. So, obviously, with the news of Major League Baseball possibly returning as soon as next week with spring training 2.0, as they're sort of calling it here, there's at least a little positivity on the Major League side. The minor league side, obviously, just no guarantees right now, and we can't really look forward with any certainty to a 2020 minor league season. So rather than forecast ahead, I figured we'd have you on here, maybe go back in time a little bit and have you share a couple of your favorite Quakes memories from the 2019 season. It was a season that was certainly loaded with all kinds of highlights. Gosh, we had just as many prospects as you could possibly even want to see on a club in 2019. I have a couple of favorites that really made an impact on that 2019 team. But I know there's a couple of interesting stories that you wanted to share with the fans. Certainly, first and foremost, the last Quakes win of 2019, a game against the Lake Elsinore Storm in the postseason. The Quakes have made the playoffs now for 5 straight years going into that run. We were down 2-0 to the Lake Elsinore Storm in a best-of-5. And although long-term we wouldn't win the series, Game 3 at Lone Mart Field was one of the most memorable games, I would say, in Quakes history. We had a super crowd to turn out and watch the Quakes come from behind. I'm going to let you set the stage here. The Storm, in a 4-4 game in the top of the 9th inning, they get a run off of Wills Montgomery to take a 5-4 lead. And, as they say, going to the bottom of the 9th inning, you can't necessarily bank on the comeback win. Odds stacked against you, down a run. You're going into the bottom of the 9th Hope scheduled to lead off the inning against a guy who had just dominated the Quakes about 24 hours prior, Mason Fox of the Lake Elsinore Storm. Set the stage there as we go on the bottom of the ninth inning in Game 3, 3 outs away from potential elimination.
Yeah, I'll start back with the first 2 games of the series to tee it up a little bit, Mike. But obviously at that time of the year, being on the road, most of the fans weren't able to see what happened in the first 2 games. There were 2 extremely well played games by our team and the Storm, for that matter. And obviously the Storm won both of them. But the first one was a toe-to-toe start with Gerardo Carrillo and Garrett Rickards. Was it Rickards or Richards?
Richards, yeah.
Richards, excuse me, who is a major leaguer. He's a rostered guy now again, and was a big winner as a starting pitcher with the Angels before he was injured. And they just went toe-to-toe. It was a great game. We lost 2-0. And then the next night, gave ourselves a lead in Game 2 and then lost it late in extra innings. That one was on me, frankly, and the guys really responded with Game 3 as we get into it, just for everybody to understand that the players themselves really stepped up and took what was not an ideal situation and played with full passion and effort and got themselves into what might be my favorite game as a professional. I actually think it is. I'm pretty certain about it now.
So down 2-0 in the best of 5. You're going to the bottom of the ninth inning at home, down 5-4. What take us in from there?
Back and forth game from start to finish. Both teams really taking advantage of their opportunities. Well pitched game, and if I'm not mistaken, we were down 5-4 going into the bottom of the ninth. But it was the top of the ninth that kind of defined what took place. We saw Mason Fox, who was acting as their closer at that time, closed out Game 1 really handily. This guy's a right-handed pitcher with extremely good stuff, especially a fastball that, with all the new characteristics, plays out as good as just about any fastball you'll see. It's got that little uptick to it, and he's very aggressive. So he was warming up down in the bullpen, and the neat part of this story is, the growth that takes place. You guys in Rancho, as fans, as front office, you guys get to see this maturization of our players right in front of your eyes, and watch them come in a young puppy and watch them move themselves into what really is a more refined professional. And so many big leaguers have come through, and these are the little moments. This identifies one little moment that 2 guys really stepped up and showed that maturity. But we're watching Mason warm up in the bullpen, kind of planning out for the lineup in the ninth inning, and knowing that we had a full and strong bench available to us. We had held that off most of the game to hopefully get in a matchup at an opportune moment. And throughout the game, this guy had been really focusing on each pitcher, spending the bulk of the game with Elian Herrera, scouting out what was going on, breaking it down. It was just easy to see when you pace the dugout like I do sometimes that Starling Heredia was ready to play, even though he wasn't in the lineup that day. And that's a good matchup for him. He's definitely somebody who can drive a fastball. Not to say Garrett Hope can't. It's not the case at all. It was just a perfect matchup for Starling to get in there and give us a shot of energy. But his approach mentally was there for 9 innings prior to that. So we were watching Garrett warm up in the bullpen, and I just walked by Elian and Starling with Dustin Kelly and said, "Hey, Starling, we think this is your guy in the bullpen. What do you think?" And, he nodded his head and he said, "I got it." And he just locked into him. And so we're literally finishing up, the top half of the ninth inning, preparing for the unknown. And this guy's just breaking it down with Dustin Kelly, being reminded of what Mason did to us on Game 1. And then the rest is probably one of the most unique stories as a coach for a pinch hitter I've ever heard of in my life. Starling disappears into the dugout as we're coming off the field and preparing for our last at bat, what could have been our last at bat. And I intercepted Garrett, just let him know that this was a good matchup for Starling and that Garrett would be starting the next night behind the plate. And he made it easy on me. He wanted that at bat. There's no doubt about it. But he handed it off the right way. And that's also a big lesson in the maturity of a minor league player growing towards his dreams. But Garrett and I both looked down towards the end of the dugout, and there was no Starling. And literally, you'll like this, man. Literally, Mason Fox is in his warm-ups on the mound in the game, announced, and it's like pitch 1, 2, 3, and I'm looking down like, where is Starling, man? He is nowhere to be found, and he's hard to miss. This guy's a tank. So I start sending guys into the clubhouse like, go get him, please.
And they found him right next to Kirk Gibson in the tunnel, right? He was right next to Kirk Gibson warming up.
They first couldn't find him, so we're going like pitch 5, pitch 6. They get 8 warm-up pitches, and I'm just counting in the clock. At that time of the year, with the mental fatigue that takes place, you're literally like completely focused on the right stuff. But how am I going to do this? Am I going to re-enter Garrett and so on and so forth? But Brandon Montgomery popped his head out of the little tunnel there, and he goes, "Hey, Mark," and he just yells it. The whole team's looking over now, and he goes, "Don't worry, he's coming." Well, where is he? What was he doing? He was on the bike, and he was getting himself mentally ready. So that calmed me down a little bit. But now Luis Camposano, their catcher, throws all the way down to second base. Starling's still not in the dugout. And, the umpire's kind of looking at me like, who's hitting? There's nobody on deck. And you just see Starling come out of the tunnel, and it went slow-mo for me. It was a total Hollywood scene. And he just starts marching through the dugout with his head down, and all the guys were rallying for him. And he walked by, said, "Buddy," which is his nickname. I love calling him Buddy. He's everybody's buddy. And I just said, "You ready?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah." So this guy went to the on-deck circle. He took 0 warm-up swings. And, as we'll see with hopefully some of these clips here, he walked up there, saw one pitch, a fastball, and hit it 460 feet into the night sky and tied that game up. The emotions were so high. And probably the coolest part to that as it's unfolding is, for me personally, is Miguel Vargas just hugging me at the ribs as I was on a couple steps higher in the dugout, just hugging me and jumping in the air. And I'm getting tossed around like being in a blender. And he just looked up at me and he said, "Thank you." And I said, "Thank you for what?" Like, go thank that guy. He just annihilated a baseball for us. But really, really cool moment. And just to watch, it was probably the most times in a row I've ever watched a video clip this offseason. And each time the chills were there. This guy, he really, really crushed that ball, but it was the preparation leading up to it that really excites you for where he's headed in his life and his future. If he chooses to take on that same process, it's pretty special.
A very exciting moment for Starling Heredia. So his blast down the left field line, and again, to reiterate, he was a pinch hitter. He had no hacks in the on-deck circle. He walked to the plate against a guy who had been throwing lights-out baseball over the course of the last couple of weeks in Mason Fox. One pitch, tie game, just an absolute tee shot down the left field line. And, of course, there was all kinds of time to celebrate that because, 60 seconds later, 120 seconds later, Jacob Amaya comes to the plate.
Yeah, that was neat. Jacob, he takes good at bats, and he has this unique sense for what's taking place in front of him before your brain can even catch up as what is a spectator at that point. You're in the dugout. This just happened. The guys are still celebrating. Jacob's making his way up to the plate, and you just watch Mason try to do something different. He did not throw a fastball in the first pitch. He really bounced a breaking ball pretty short in front of the plate, a pitch that he had not thrown in a while. He has this disappearing fastball that's his go-to pitch, but unexpectedly got driven out of the yard. And so he just tried to dump a breaking ball in there, which they had been trying to do to Jacob all series long. And Jacob was keenly aware of that. There was a lot of the dugout dialogue that led up to most of his at-bats. You know, he made the choice to be a very patient hitter in that series and had a great series. Jacob also led off the bottom of the first for us with a home run. But in this case, you know, he took that breaking ball well short. And you know, at 1-0 with a guy who's a predominantly fastball pitcher, Jacob was sitting on old number one. And for him to get that high fastball and hit an absolute rocket bullet line drive into left center to win that game, just thinking about it, I can see it happening in front of his family. I mean, gosh, you know how much a family was there for Jacob. Back to back like that, I just don't think I've ever seen it, especially out of two young players that had to think their way through two very unique at bats against the formidable arm there.
Very exciting finish. That gave the Quakes a 6-5 come from behind victory and some life against Lake Elsinore Storm. Unfortunately, the next night, fortunes would turn back to the Storm. They would go on to face the Visalia Rawhide in the Cal League Championship Series. But certainly some incredible memories there with Starling Heredia, first pitch swinging as a pinch hitter to tie the game. Jacob Amaya literally 2 pitches later. Not even enough time to celebrate and grasp what Heredia had done, in my opinion. I was going to make the joke, like, did you even see Amaya's home run, or were you, like, face deep in Heredia's shoulder at that point, like, giving him some love?
Oh, man, it was hard to be around Heredia getting in the dugout because they were mobbing him so intensely. And if you get caught in that crossfire, man, these are big, strong guys. But it came on fast, like you said. It's like the waiter brought you dinner, and then 30 seconds later, here's dessert, man. You haven't even taken a bite yet.
Great analogy. Great analogy. I love the food analogies. That's a top 10 one right there. That's fantastic.